yung ating pong presentation. Mabilis lang naman po to. Napaliwanag na po to ni Honorable Barbers. Ito po yung resolusyon na kung saan nagkaroon ng desisyon tungkol dito sa pag-aayos. Let me clarify that the actual rate na pinagkaisa nila was 95% of the total cost. Sige po, next slide. So batay po dito sa mga whereas clauses niya, malinaw po na ang pera nagkaroon ng pagbayad sa Metrobank, sa Citibank, manager's check, from Citibank pumunta ng Metrobank, at dito po nagkaroon na ng problema papunta ng Philhealth. Next slide. So yung slide po na yan, ni-resolve nila finally upon OGCC clearance. Ang binayad po is 108 million. Ang nawalang pera dito is 114 million. Bigla na lang pong nawala. Next slide. Ito yung manager's check coming from Citibank papunta po sa supposedly sa Metrobank, no, based on a payment of 22 million. Marami po to, but the total is 114 million. Next slide. Ang last slide po na yan naman po yung 62 million na papunta dapat sa Philhealth. Next slide. Ito yung mga resibo na supposedly peke na nanggaling sa Philhealth. And another slide please. Next slide. So ito yung mga sinabmit po sa ating mga dokumento batay dito sa issue ng Accenture. Ang role ng Philhealth dito, pinayagan nila na magbayad na lang yung mga bangko, nag-base to sa isang agreement with Citibank and Metrobank. Pero nakakagulat po dito, papaanong ang pera na nanggaling sa bangko ay mawawala. So meron po ditong connivance ng ating mga bangko at ng mga Philhealth officials. Unfortunately, from what I've read, doon po sa nakita kong mga resolusyon ng kasong to, ang natanggal lang, if I'm not mistaken, Attorney Pucalan, 2 tao. Meron pang kayong nandyan na nasa loob pa ng Philhealth, neglect of duty, pero sinuspindi lang siya. Hindi siya natanggal. So we have here Attorney Retanal of the NBI, Philhealth Ms. Vanji Racelis, and former President Eduardo Banson, na ito pong mga pag-usap sa kasong to. So with that, we're just awaiting the arrival of the Honorable Barbers who brought up this issue. Pero nandito po ba si Ms. Vanji Racelis? Wala, nasa Zoom. Okay, before
online.
pagpaliwanagin lang natin yung legal mabilis.
May ano lang in relation do sa binanggit mo na ang sinasabi mo 2 empleyado lang ang natanggal doon sa...
That, yes, from the legal that I've seen, ito pa lang to at wala akong nakitang filing of case o kung anumang action pa na isinagawa.
Kasi sa investigation po nila lumalabas sa Philhealth website nila, yung results of initial investigation on premium payment diversion scheme, lumalabas po dito sa inimbestigahan po nila na 5 ay hindi po ata nagtatama doon sa sinasabi po ninyo. Well, anyway, Mr. Chairman, pakinggan po muna natin sila bago po tayo mag...
Attorney Pucalan is recognized.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Sir, from what I recall from that case, from that incident, there were administrative cases filed against certain employees, no, and some were dismissed. And as to the criminal case, I think from what was discussed last hearing, the matter was referred to the NBI. That's what I recall.
Hindi, pero dito po sa inyo, administrative case ninyo, may dinismiss kayong 2. Si Isaac at saka si Romel Isaac at saka si Mario Matanggian. And then meron kayong grave misconduct, serious dishonesty, kay Mr. Noel Ramirez, Mr. Rene Visconde, Mr. Manuel Manlangit.
Yes, sir.
So ang natanggal ninyo is dalawa.
Yes po, sir. Although, sir, meron kasing ano yan, meron ding third complaint. Although on a different ground naman, hindi talaga on the illegal transfer of fund, no. So more on the concerned employee, the dismissed employee was able to receive benefits despite hindi po nagre-report sa Pro 4B office in Batangas City. So, connected din po dun sa Accenture incident po.
Ang tanong po namin dito, unang-una, dito sa inyong mga empleyado, bakit nyo po sila kinahusuan? Klaro ba na sila yung nag-issue ng, kasi may nag-issue ng resibo. Supposedly,
Yes.
paano pong sa investigasyon nyo, paano nilang nagawa na nailabas yung pondo sa Metro Bank? Dapat direkto ho yan sa inyo, di ba? Sa Philhealth.
Yes, sir po.
Paano nilang nagawa na napunta sa mga tao?
Sir, meron pong ad hoc committee. Sir, I apologize, I cannot answer because there were ad hoc committees to investigate on that, separate from the legal sector po.
Sino po yung head ng ad hoc committee?
Yung isang committee, sir, chaired by Attorney Genesis Adarlo.
Cheryl Peña po ba nandyan?
Sir, nandito po.
Ma'am, kayo po yung pumirma nitong mga certification ng mga may investigation po ba kayo dito or on the basis lang na recommendation ng board? Dito po kayo, ma'am. Okay. So, sino ang makakasagot? Attorney Pukalan, sino yung sinabi nyo? Sino yung ad hoc committee?
Yung chair po, sir, noon si Attorney Genesis Adarlo, our former corporate secretary po. Pero not connected na po, sir, siya sa Philhealth.
So, maybe we can request, was Mr. Banson the president at the time?
Yes po, sir po.
So maybe we can request Mr. Dodo Banson. Is Mr. Banson with us now?
Yes.
po kasama natin?
Yes,
Ayan.
Mr.
Yes, Mr. Banson, go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, there were after it was reported about this discrepancy on the that reported by Treasury that there was a discrepancy on the payment of what was reported as payment in the bank, then what was actually repeated to Philhealth, and when we discovered this diversion of checks, 5 staff of IT department who had access to the database were immediately removed. Their access was removed. They were then put under preventive suspension, and then an investigation was started on these 5 employees, Your Honor. So I could not recall the exact details, but there were I think on the ad hoc committees, on the composition of the ad hoc committees, but these committees then did the administrative investigation of the 5, Your Honor.
Mr. Banson, just a question. In your investigation, paano po nila nagawa yung modus operandi na natanggal sa Metro Bank at napunta sa mga personal accounts ng mga tao?
Your Honor, what we have learned in the investigation, not of the 5, but when we is that there was about 10 checks, Your Honor. These checks were premium payments for October 2010, December 2010, and February to September 2011, totaling about 144 million. This all happened before I became CEO of Philhealth in October 2011. So these checks were basically what happened is these were checks that was purchased, Citibank manager's check purchased by Accenture, payable to Philhealth, and yet they found a way to bring it to two branches in Batangas of a bank, Metro Bank, and they were able to find a way to get the money given to unknown people, Your Honor.
From the two banks in Batangas, they were able to withdraw it.
Yes, Your Honor. They were able to withdraw the money.
To identify the personnel who were able to identify. Philhealth personnel po ang nag-withdraw.
We never knew, Your Honor. This was referred to the National Bureau of Investigation to investigate who were able to withdraw the money.
Attorney Retanal, nandiyan po ba kayo? Thank you, Mr. Banson. Attorney Retanal, nandiyan po ba kayo? Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Oo. Nakuha nyo na po ba kung sino yung nag-withdraw doon sa huli?
Sir, without mentioning the account numbers or the personnel, yes, we were able to determine the account holders. However, if you may allow me to state the antecedent facts, so that you will be enlightened on what actually happened.
Kindly proceed.
Yes. The checks were actually the 10 checks of Citibank. Sorry, sir, I wasn't able to mention it, that it was 10 checks, which covers 10 months premium. Monthly, Accenture remits payments through its messenger. A messenger brings it to supposedly he brings it to the Philhealth office, and then a corresponding receipt be issued to him, and which in turn he gives back to the in charge employee of Accenture. However, it was found that that these checks were actually not deposited to Philhealth, and that to the Philhealth bank account, but rather these checks were cleared in a bank in Batangas, and two branches of a bank in Batangas. But what happened actually is that the checks were intercepted from the messenger, and he was given, because it's a working of a syndicate, the messenger was provided with a fake receipt. Whenever he tries to pay to allegedly pay it to Philhealth. A fake receipt will be provided to him.
Ma'am, from Citibank to Metro Bank, doon po na-intercept?
No, sir. Na-intercept po siya through the messenger of Accenture. Parang messagerial service ng Accenture.
Saan po galing yung cheque from Accenture to Citibank? Kasi
Bali, sir, hindi. Yung Accenture, nagpe-prepare siya ng check payments. Nagpe-prepare po sila ng check payments. Tapos this check will be then, sir, syempre hindi na yung employee ng Accenture ang nagdadala, kundi meron silang messagerial service. Siya po yung supposedly nagdadala ng check. Kasi safe naman dahil check ito. Dinadala niya, dadali niya sa Philhealth office kung saan siya magbabayad. However, we were able to interview this messenger. But he would not disclose kung ano talaga yung totoong nangyari. But we surmised, kasi nga po, napunta siya sa Batangas. Because this syndicate is actually like that of Land Bank scam. If you will recall, it's intended for BIR payments, but it was deposited to private accounts. It's a similar case. But in this, what's peculiar about this case is that there's a corresponding float in the IT system of PhilHealth. Unlike in the
May
case of
kakontsaba po.
PIR,
May kakontsaba sa PhilHealth dahil nai-input na may pumasok.
yes sir. Parang ganito yung workings ng syndicate. Meron silang siguro na bayaran na cohort within PhilHealth. Possible also that the the messenger somehow he was nung sinabi po kasi namin sa kanya noon na may namatay na bank employee. Medyo nag-ano siya pero hindi pa rin siya he still made the stand na tama yung ginawa niya. Pero sabi namin, paano napunta yung cheque sa Batangas kung sa PhilHealth mo talaga to dinala? Pero ang theory po is hindi talaga niya dinala to sa PhilHealth office.
Mr.
Just
Chair.
like in the previous case of Land Bank, may intercept na yung cheque. And then, the check, bakit siya na-clear? Then the syndicate also has corrupted an employee of the bank who is in charge of the clearing. Yung clearing po, supposed to be, meron siyang ka-corresponding, yung checks po na ini-issue ng Accenture, meron siyang corresponding check of similar amount. Parang tawag po namin doon is counterpart check. So the counterpart check is the one deposited in the bank. However, since manual po yung clearing, this bank employee intercepts, nasa kanya na yung intercepted Citibank check. So what he will do is that hinahanap niya kung ano yung corresponding amount nung Citibank check which was deposited to a private account. Tapos ang gagawin po niya, dudukutin niya, siya po kasi yung in charge doon sa listing. Kumbaga sa clearing. So since manual, dudukutin niya yung...
Ma'am, sa mga tuwido, parang minamatch niya yung pinipeke nila para magmukhang nandun talaga yung pondo.
Yes, sir. Ang gagawin, hindi. Parang imamatch niya po, parang pinalalabas niya, merong actual deposit sa private sa private account. Tapos, ang gagawin po niya, since yung tinatawag na counterpart check is actually dubious check, kumbaga wala po tong value or coming from a closed account, ipapalit niya ngayon po sa clearing.
Attorney Tonal, I will recognize the Honorable Barbers para magtuloy siya ng tanong. Go ahead, Congressman Barbers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Attorney, I suppose meron kang investigation report na pinasa o sinubmit sa NBI, di ba?
Yes, sir, meron po.
At ito pong kwento na sinasabi nyo are all stipulated in that report, I also suppose, right?
Yes, sir.
Including ho ba dito, yung sinabi nyo kasi kanina, narinig ko, in-interview nyo yung messenger ba yun? Meron bang mga affidavits na in-issue yung messenger na yun tungkol dyan?
Yes, sir. Meron siyang in-issue'ng affidavit. Yun nga lang po, we treated it as untruthful.
Ano po yun? Ano po yun? Meron po bang affidavit yung messenger?
Sir, meron pong affidavit yung messenger. However, we've considered it as untruthful.
On the basis
Hindi po siya nagsasabi ng totoo.
So, if I were to conclude kung ano po yung storya dun sa investigation nyo, parang yung sindikato, kasabwat dito yung messenger at saka yung mga
Yes, sir. Isa po siya sa
pati yung mga taga-bangko.
Tsaka PhilHealth.
Meron, parang ang naging po niya, ng setup is, I have a cohort in all aspects of the transaction.
Okay, sige
So
po.
that I can make the cover up.
Sa base ho dun sa investigation nyo,
Galing.
sino ho sa PhilHealth employees ang liable? Ang may liability ho diyan sa isyung yan?
Actually, sir, yun nga po, the NBI is actually asking them for a forensic examination of the database. However, due to the turn of events po kasi, because during the investigation of
Attorney, can you be specific? Ano yung turn of events na sinasabi nyo?
sorry, yung nagkaroon po ng amicable settlement between four parties.
Is the one that stopped you from further investigating. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, because of the absence of complaining witnesses. And then and at the same time, during that event din po kasi, we are also doing the investigation of one of the biggest scam in the Philippines. If you will recall, Aman Future scam. So it's also a case that we were handling that time.
So,
Kaya po, since
as attorney na hindi nyo na na-pursue yun because one, may sudden turn of events because Philhealth decided to just settle amicably with Accenture, and two, you were too busy to conduct your further investigation because you were tied up with the Aman scam. Tama po ba yun?
yes, sir, opo.
Oh, ngayon, kasi attorney, kaya ang tanong ko, sino sa taga Philhealth yung nakita nyong liable dyan? Diba?
Sir, initial assessment is that there was an intrusion in the IT system. Kasi nga po merong floats. Now, which is unusual.
Okay.
Kumbaga sa fraud po kasi it's a deviation from the normal procedure that there's a float on that particular pending for 10 months for this particular corporation na nakapending siya. Pero nag-conduct na daw sila ng audit, pero nakita pa rin siya.
Attorney, in your investigation, did you also find out that the checks that was supposed to be deposited to Philhealth but never happened and was diverted to another account in Metrobank, pero sa PhilHealth records, it reflected na paid siya. Lumabas ba yun sa inyong investigation?
Sir, ang lumabas lang nga po, just as I stated before, it was a reconciliation float in their system, which was discovered by their Treasury Department. May initial reports din po yung IT system nila. That's why they had a referral to our office regarding these floats. Pero ang clear po doon, merong intrusion coming from an insider fraud.
Yan. Yan.
Honorable Barbers.
Yes, because there's kumbaga po sa computer, I had a remote, and one employee had a remote access on those particular crucial period when the float was discovered. Kumbaga po parang inalter yung data to make it appear that these payments were actually received by Philhealth.
Mr. Limsiaco, tanungin ko lang po, kasi 5 buwan nangyari to. Yung po bang cash at saka yung IT na pumapasok, hindi po ba kayo nagre-reconcile dyan? Kasi nakita, may cheque, pinost. Let's say, sa aking pagkakalam, sa Pasig to. So alam niyo yung collection dun sa NCR. Hindi niyo ba marireconcile kaagad kung walang cash o kulang yung cash based on dun sa posting?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, ang proseso natin ngayon, ang collection for the day of our collecting agent, kinabukasan po ay i-remit na po nila, and the corresponding remittance report po ay sinasubmit na sa opisina, and reconciliation is being done right away, Mr. Chair, Your Honor.
Anong mangyari to? Hindi pa ganon.
Hindi pa ho, during that time, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, mayroon pang float ang ating mga collecting agents na I think that's 15 days, Your Honor.
Hindi, ito 5 months to eh.
Oo nga.
Anyway, that was not your time, no, when this happened. Honorable Barsaga, may tatanong ho ata?
Sige, sige. Manong, just one. Kay Mr. Banson lang sana itatanong ko before I yield to
Yes.
Congressman Barsaga.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Banson,
Yes, Your Honor.
you were the president during the time that this incident happened, correct?
Your Honor, no, Your Honor. I became president, and we were the one who caught this. All of this happened before I became president, Your Honor.
So it happened before you became president.
Yes, Your Honor. I became president on October 17, 2011, and this was reported to me.
Finding out that this incident happened, what was your first move?
I immediately have an investigation, Your Honor. So when it was reported to me that there was this a discrepancy, we immediately have an internal investigation. Then what we did, Your Honor, is that all those with access to the database, we remove access from the database. They were eventually put in 90-day preventive suspension, and then the investigation started. In addition to that, Your Honor, we reported this to the NBI and the Anti-Money Laundering Council. Third, Your Honor, is that we reached out to Accenture and demanded what we eventually, the premiums that were diverted that eventually came out at 114 million, Your Honor.
I was informed also, Mr. Banson, that you replaced the head of the IT department because when you found out that there was such an issue, immediately tinanggal nyo yung head, yung Mr. Mario Matanggihan.
Your Honor, he was, if I recall it correctly, Your Honor, it's been quite a while. I think I removed him before we discovered this.
And you replaced him with whom?
Your Honor, what we had was we brought in a new chief information officer from UP, Dr. Eloy Marcelo, so a medical informatics expert. In addition to that, Your Honor, in the department in IT, if I recall it, Mr. De Rosario was put in place as OIC.
The Attorney Del Rosario, nilagay nyo rin as head.
He was reporting to Marcelo, Your Honor. So
It was during your time.
yes, Your Honor. So kumbaga nga, we made the position of IT head a little higher.
Sige, Mr. Chair, I'll now yield to Congressman Barsaga.
Congressman Barsaga?
Well, my clarificatory questioning would be to the lady lawyer.
Attorney Retanal?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, kompanyera. Unang-una, ang tanong ko, mga ilang cheque ang involved dito sa kaso ng Accenture?
Sir, yun ba, I stand corrected. That because what I had, it's 10 checks, Your Honor.
Assuming na 10 cheque, ang susunod kong paglilinaw, ito bang 10 cheque nito ay pare-pareho ang date or issued on different dates?
Sir, it was issued on different dates.
On the same date? Different
Sir, different dates.
So sa madaling sabi, based on your previous statement, binibigay ito ng Accenture sa kanilang messenger. Tama ba
Apo.
ang accusation ko sa iyong sagot kanina?
Apo. Yes, Mr. Chair. Pagkagaling po sa staff ng employee ay ng Accenture who is in charge of the preparation of the payment and the checks, she will then this employee will then turn over it to the messenger who
Here.
will then
Ano ang difference or length ng pagkakaiba ng 10 cheque sa bawat isa? Is this issued monthly, after 1 month, or after 2 weeks? Sa iyong
Sir, ano po siya, supposedly the payment, sir, is done monthly.
So it will be a correct appreciation o tama ang aming pagkakaintindi, buwan-buwan, nag-i-issue ng isang cheque ang Accenture.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. At buwan-buwan, binibigay sa messenger, pagkatapos dinidiretso ng messenger sa Philhealth.
Opo, yun po yung, kumbaga, yung normal procedure should happen that upon giving to him, ibabayad niya sa Philhealth office.
At pag binayad sa Philhealth, nag-i-issue naman ng resibo ang PhilHealth.
Opo, dapat may corresponding receipt. And meron naman pong naibibigay yung messenger.
Meron bang resibo na i-issue ang PhilHealth?
Bali sir, meron pong resibo na ibinabalik si messenger kay Accenture employee.
So,
Every time na magdadala siya ng payment, meron po siyang kapalit na resibo.
sa inyong investigasyon, nakita nyo ba kung sino ang pumirma at kung saan branch ng PhilHealth in-issue ang receipt?
Bale po dun sa resibo, when we traced, yung series po niya, yung receipts na yon, ay hindi officially issued ng PhilHealth. Kumbaga fake po siya.
Mga fake receipts.
Apo.
At yung pangalan na nag-appear doon sa resibong peke ng PhilHealth ay peke rin, not a true employee of PhilHealth.
Inano po namin siya, tinrace namin kung may particular employee na yun yung name. Pero na-determine po, may pangalan na ganon na employee. Pero hindi naman po duly issued yung mga receipts. Kasi parang ibang branch, nga rin po, Pasig, supposedly naka-assign yung employee. Pero yung resibo, naka-issue, allegedly, coming from Buendia branch. Pero it turns out po that these receipts are fake.
Resibo, saang branch ng PhilHealth nag-appear na tinanggap?
Sir, I will just go over the records po ulit.
Hindi
I will check po all the receipts lang that I have.
Mr. Chair, pasingit lang ho.
Go ahead, Honorable Barbers.
I hope you don't mind. Gusto ko lang tanungin ulit si Mr. Banson kung meron bang during your time when you were the president of PhilHealth at meron kang investigation dito, did you recommend the filing of charges against those employees allegedly involved in this scam?
Your Honor, nang tumakbo na po yung administrative investigation, hindi umalis po ako ng PhilHealth ang January 14. 14 ba?
So, hindi mo na inabot kung may
Hindi na po. Tuloy-tuloy pa po. Wala pa pong sinadmit sa akin na findings po yung ad hoc committee.
Who was investigating that?
Your Honor, hindi ko po ma-recall exactly, no? Kung sino po yung nakabuo, yung nandun sa ad hoc committee. Pag sinabi kanina po ni Atty. Pocalan, si Atty. Adatlo, pero hindi ko po exactly masabi kung sino na po na-assign doon. Medyo matagal na ho.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Attorney Retanal. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Honorable Barsaga, pagsagot po ni Attorney Retanal, actually klaro naman yung kaso natin as presented by the Honorable Barbers dun sa mga pinisintang mga dokumento rito. At ang importante rito, mabantayan talaga natin na mapangangalagaan yung pondo. I think very critical yung IT rito. And syempre, in our case, gusto rin natin makita bakit ganito yung naging resulta, bakit hindi nagtuloy-tuloy yung pag-prosecute ng kaso. Go ahead, Attorney Retanal.
Yes, sir. Meron pong yung mga receipts po na receive ng Accenture is coming from Makati office. Makati Service Office. Doon po nagbabayad, allegedly, doon nagbabayad yung messenger. Pero it turns out nga po that these receipts, even the series of receipts, are spurious.
Sabi, attorney, yung more or less 10 cheque, ang lahat ng resibo na peke ay issue ng Makati PhilHealth branch office. Tama
Apo.
ba?
Kumbaga sir, kung face value, iti-take mo siya na galing siya sa Makati Service Office.
Pagkatapos,
Tapos sir, merong ding na... Sorry po.
thank you very much for that answer. Pagkatapos, kahit na ang resibo na peke ay in-issue sa Makati, ang deposit naman ay nangyari sa Batangas.
Sir, as I explained nga po kanina,
Pakisigot ka lamang, kung tama na na-deposit sa Batangas Bank. O hindi?
Bali sir, yung proceeds po ng checks na deposit na clear sa Batangas.
Batangas.
Opo.
Na ang cheque ay payable sa Philhealth, hindi naman pumasok sa account ng Philhealth. Next
Apo.
question. Yung paglilinaw kanina ni Congressman Barbers, ang sabi mo, because of the turn of events and because of the amicable settlement, hindi na naparsu ang criminal case. Tama ba ang pagkakaintindi ko sa tanong at sagot ni Congressman Barbers?
Yes sir.
Yes.
Kasi po, during the pendency of investigation, kumbaga po, nakapending pa siya, ongoing pa rin yung investigation. And then we learned, actually we were not officially informed. We just learned that there was an amicable settlement between 4 parties covering the whole amount of 114 million.
Paano nyo nalaman na meron palang settlement if you were not informed?
Honorable Barsaga, we have your attorney Asuncion. Was this during, wala na ba? Ano lang po. Sige, go ahead, Congressman Barsaga.
Attorney, kung hindi ka in-inform officially or informally ng investigation, ng settlement, paano mo laman na merong settlement?
Sir, we considered it as intelligence information because
as a lawyer, alam mo naman siguro na kung magkakaroon ng settlement sa PhilHealth, kinakailangan there must be a board resolution authorizing the settlement.
Sir, since we respect because it's a fellow government agency who's actually asked us to do investigation, and they were while we are doing the criminal aspect investigation in the criminal aspect, there's also a corresponding administrative aspect. Though para po nung una nagko-collaborate kami. I want to share din po kasi na what's peculiar also is that the one who we determined as the one who accessed and make alteration in the IT system has been about 3 years na po siyang hindi nagsasubmit ng DTR. Actually, hindi na siya sumusweldo, pero may access pa rin siya.
Being part of the investigation, nalaman mo ba nagkaroon ng PhilHealth Board Resolution number 1643 series of 2012?
Sir, hindi na po kami nga po na-provide ng resolution because what I remember is that there's a confidentiality clause in the amicable settlement which I'm not really privy of. Yun po siguro kaya yung other parties when we were asking them.
Well, as a lawyer, alam mo naman, there would be the corresponding board resolution, and once the board resolution has been issued, the next step legally will be the compromise agreement or the settlement. Insofar as confidentiality is concerned, that would be the provisions of the settlement or the compromise agreement. Will that be a correct appreciation, Panyera?
Yes. Yes, sir. Because it's a corporation, government corporation, it has to be a corresponding board resolution should be issued for that purpose.
Kaya ang tanong ko, bagamat hindi ka nabigyan ng board resolution, nakita mo ba o nabasa yung board resolution authorizing for the settlement of the 114 million involving the account of Accenture? So,
No, sir.
Settlement will result to the extinction of the civil liability.
No, sir. We were not provided with any copy of resolution, amicable settlement whatsoever.
You mentioned a while ago, because of the turn of events, hindi na kayo nagpursue ng criminal case. Pero dito sa board resolution, katulad ng sinabi ni Congressman Barbers last time, last paragraph, resolved finally that PhilHealth management is expected to continue with each effort and coordinate with the various government agencies to hold the perpetrators of this nefarious activity accountable and liable to the government. Well, anyway, one last point. Nagkaroon ng settlement. Are you aware of that?
Bali sir, nalaman na lang po namin parang after na.
After the settlement.
Yes sir, after settlement. Kasi pa may ongoing investigation. The investigation is continuing. However, since nung nagkaroon po ng settlement, no communication whatsoever was provided to us by Philhealth and also the other parties who requested investigation from us.
Limited ang time natin. Ang sabi mo kanina, hindi nyo pinarsu ang investigation sapagkat ang criminal case kasi nagkaroon na ng amicable settlement. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Opo.
Pagkatapos, alam mo rin siguro na sa amicable settlement, katulad ng sinasabi namin dito, 95% lamang ang babayaran instead of 114 million. Did you come to know about that information?
Sir, we did not actually have the information as to the sharing, as to those amounts. Actually po, to be honest, we only learned about the percentage.
Hindi raw alam ng inyong abogado na nag-iimbestiga yung settlement. Sino ang makakasagot? Dr. Pargas?
Mr. Chair, no. I
Hindi
don't
mo rin
have-
alam? What about the head of the finance or the fund management?
Anyway, Honorable Barsaga, we were able to establish yung facts about this case.
Okay.
And I think, ang dapat nating posisyon dito talaga, ipursu pa rin yung kaso.
Ang just based on the records which they have submitted, ang babayaran 108 million, ang pinagtataka ko, nagbayad ang Metrobank ng 62 million, nagbayad ang Citibank ng 22 million, pati Accenture nagbayad ng 22 million.
Sige.
Barsaga.
So sa madaling sabi, Accenture hindi nakapagbayad ng 114 million. Ang binayad lang nila 22 million.
Parang ang nangyari po dyan nata pinaghati-hatian ng tatlo. Yung naging problema.
Yes.
Okay?
Pero dapat sana, pinagbayad na ng buo ng 114,000, yung difference na 5 million, 5,703,000, dapat magbayad na Accenture. Kasi ang liability ng Accenture is 114 million. Pero ang binayad lamang nila, 22 million. And the remainder were shouldered by the two banks. Based on the records which you have submitted. Unfortunately, wala na naman makasagot sa Philhealth. And this is a big amount.
Yes. Honorable Barsaga, before we continue, andito po si Atty. Asuncion. Si Mr. Banson was the CEO at that time. After the stint of President Banson, Atty. Asuncion became the COO. No, siya po yung Chief Operating Officer ng Philhealth. Diyan din po nakapasok, kaya natin siya tinawag on the question of yung pong question ng amicable settlement with Cardinal Santos Hospital. So, Atty. Asuncion, can you reply to the Honorable Barsaga on this particular case?
Case, Your Honor.
Accenture.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, insofar as the Accenture case is concerned, I believe it didn't pass through the legal. I mean,
Sandali po, Atty. Asuncion. Dumaan po sa kayo na po yung COO nung magkaroon ng amicable
I was the SVP legal, Your Honor. I was newly appointed at the time.
At that time.
When this Accenture came up.
Go ahead.
So, well,
Hindi ho dumaan sa legal. Tuloy niyo po.
that's how I recall it, Your Honor. I can't even recall if I was shown of the board resolution. so far as Accenture is concerned, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, at least,
Ikaroon ko lang ho kayo po yung SVP legal, hindi pa ko yung COO na that time. Pero,
Hindi po ako naging COO, Mr. Chair,
oh, I'm sorry.
Your Honor.
So, SVP legal po kayo, hindi duman sa inyo tong kasong to.
Well, I know about the Accenture case, but insofar as the settlement is concerned, I wasn't informed about it. As far as I recall, Your Honor, I
Mr.
wasn't
Chair,
informed.
Honorable Correta.
Attorney Asuncion, at the very
Yes,
least,
Your Honor.
you know who the members of the board who approved the settlement.
Pardon, Your Honor, I didn't get. I'm sorry.
Do you know the
of
members of the board at that time that the settlement was approved?
Who were the members, Your Honor?
Do you know who are the members of the board?
I can't actually recall who were all the who were
Bakit
the
kaya
members,
ganito, Mr. Chair,
who were the
pagka
members of the board, Your Honor?
tinatanong mo sila ng diretso, wala silang kahit
No,
una
it's
bes.
in the PBR, Your Honor. The PBR that was presented.
Attorney Asuncion, pwede ba makinig ka muna sa tanong?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Kung hindi mo alam yung mga members ng board nung panahon na inapprove yung settlement na yan, at least meron kang may pakikitang record ngayon bago tayo magtapos rito kung sino-sino yung members ng board na nag-approve niyan. Kasi at that time, ikaw ang Senior Vice President for Legal. I am very sure, isinangguni naman siguro sa iyo yan. Kasi kanina pa ako nakikinig, alam mo, ang isang bagay na kriminal kahit kailan hindi pwedeng isettle. That is against public policy. As a lawyer, alam mo yan eh. Yung sinasabi nilang close doon, palusot lang yun. Na kunwari, hahabulin pa rin kung sino yung nagkasala. Kunwari lamang yun, attorney. Nakita mo ngayon, the NBI can no longer pursue that. Wala nang tetestigo dyan. Wala nang makikipag-cooperate dyan. Tapos na yan. Kaya ganyan ang palusutan dito. Ngayon, as Senior Vice President for Legal, yan ang mga very highfalutin na mga posisyon eh. Pwede na ba tayong pumunta sa, Mr. Chair, yung Cardinal Santos? Kasi siya rin eh.
Attorney Asuncion, yung to sa Cardinal Santos po, pag-uusapan din natin yan. Anyway, na-present na to ng Honorable Barbers at natanong natin yung mga question. Ang role natin ngayon, ayusin tong kasong to. Hindi pa ho to tapos.